Okay, just an update on some ideation with the workflow. Here's the workflow we're aiming for. This is sort of the prescribed out-of-the-box workflow that once an alert is triggered, it lands as an unreviewed alert, and then the workflow could go into unreview, and it stays open. It could go to confirmed and then resolved, or it could be dismissed and resolved, or closing it. Either way, the UI should help facilitate this workflow for the user, and they're not stuck with this workflow in the sense that they don't have, it's not sequential necessarily. It's sort of the prescribed sequence, but they should be able to go from unreviewed to dismissed right away, or unreviewed to resolved, and vice versa, and in between. Okay, so this is just a really low fidelity prototype, and we'll take a look at a little bit higher fidelity one, but just to get the point across how this works is the layout here that we're looking at are open alerts that fall under that status, and they default again to unreviewed here. The user can move it into review this way. Of course, they can do it from the card. We'll take a look at that in a moment. If they want to learn more about the alert, they can take a look at it here, right in the drawer, and another place they can take a status or change the status of it. But all of this can be happening. The idea is that all of it's happening here in one space. So they see what they're, so going back to this, they can see kind of what's on their plate, what they might need to be reviewed, what they might need to finish up. There's a series of steps here that are in front of them. So it really just helps them with their workflow and to get things done quickly, the drawer being able to take a look at the details here and make decisions about the status quickly without too much back and forth. Okay, so one of the part that definitely trying to work through to optimize the way this UI looks is how it's filtered, because we see here that we're missing two states, the ones that are closed. So in this case, I'll walk through a couple of different scenarios here. Each of them have their trade-offs. And so the trade-off here is not having the resolved column, but there would be an interaction for the user to move it to the resolved one, but still not, could maybe not be ideal, but in any case, what's happening here is it defaults just to the open ones. The thought here is like, these don't necessarily need to be unchecked though. Really, it's more about just adding resolved or dismissed in those cases that they need to go back there. But that seems more of like a sort of audit log or something, but I'll jump to that in a minute. Just walking through these different states. This header at least helps kind of point out that these are just the open ones, these are the closed ones, and from here the user, sorry, I skipped to this one, but it's the same as the last one, just in this case, these are actually disabled. Again, I didn't think there was necessarily a reason that they'd want to remove these. There's enough space to work with them. And if the user then adds resolve, we see that column is added. So a couple things to work through here. Still not fully optimal, but yeah, especially if they show dismissed, there could just be so many. We could do a text string search to kind of help out with that, and there certainly could be sorting or filtering that could be applied. But yeah, here's an alternative. This is, now the upsides of these boards anyway too, is we can very much use the interaction that we see in GitLab boards, and this is another area where we see it here, where the user could expand resolved. So then they see the resolved here, so this doesn't rely on the filter to do it. Again, we kind of have this situation though where the dismiss here, it's taken up space, not much, and if it is accessible though, they can find it if they need to. It just may not be so much needed. Okay, so now here's an alternative, is having an open tab here to show the open ones It does have resolved here, so they could add that to their workflow. If they were moving from column to column, they would have that one to move it to if they wanted to, so it kind of shows the full prescribed workflow. But then also here in this tab, there's a close log. And this is a little bit more familiar to the MVC, but the idea here is that it's just a little bit more cleaner of a sort of audit log of the alerts. So whether dismissed or resolved, it's a little bit more auditable. So if it needed to be exported for whatever reason, or if you wanted to go back and make sure something, audit some of the dismissed ones or resolved ones, this is just a cleaner UI to be able to achieve that versus this one, which is much more workflow oriented. I think this, so far out of all the ideas, seems to kind of work out the best given all the trade-offs that we walked through with the other ones. So yeah. Now let's just take a look at adding a little bit more fidelity to this. So regardless of the filtering or the expand and collapse or the changelog, just kind of focused on the interaction on this page with the columns here and visually what that might kind of look like. So to get a better idea of this landing page experience, this sort of workflow experience. One thing you'll note here is that there's a sort by here at the top. This could command all these columns to sort in a certain way, whether it's alphabetical or so on. Something like this could be applied to each one in later MVCs as the need for that grows, but just pointing that out. And so one of the main interaction that we took a look at was this one where we're adding it from unreview to in review, so there's that drag and drop feature. And another one is just hovering over each of the tiles, this ability to then send it to whatever status you want it to. So from confirmed, it could go resolved or dismissed or back to in review, however, but it gives the user the flexibility of choosing it this way. And then the last one is, of course, when they take a look at more details, it's a single click. And here we're on the details screen. And from here, of course, the user then can change the status. And let's say they change it to in review. We see that that was performed. Okay, so I think that that's pretty much wraps it up. Again, in future iterations, just point out, still, even in these columns, there's potential to multi-select with these as that need may grow to help the user imagine an interaction that these could be multi-shift selected by maybe a single click and a shift or different interactions with it, and the actions can be here at the top. But I imagine that's achievable, or sorting by in each respective column. But so far, really, the major questions are around this, how the workflow is displayed with this, with the columns, whether it's the filtering or the expand collapse. And yeah, open up that page. This one seems to be the one that is more optimal for short term. That is because, again, we're adopting a lot of the behavior from the boards that we see. So a lot of this is reusable completely in the UI. And then it does seem like the close log would be helpful for those auditing purposes and a better UI to look at items that are already done. Okay, let me know what your thoughts are, or yeah, any ideas on direction or revisions, or yeah, talk to you soon. Thanks.